Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are tuning in. Thank you for joining me for the next edition or episode of the Brahma Viharas, Compassion. Now, in this series, we're taking a deep and rather involved look at compassion and certain practices that are specifically designed to allow one to cultivate a sense of compassion, starting with ourself, and we extend that compassion to a loved one. We extend it again to strangers, people we don't know, then extending it again to people we don't like. Then we eventually get to the entire world, extending it out to the entire world. So it's a process of systematically cultivating compassion, expanding outwards. So we start small with ourselves and widening our circle of care and compassion to eventually include the entire world. Now, extending compassion to people we don't know is somewhat counterintuitive. And there's a reason for that. It goes something against our Darwinian worldview. Because, 100,000 years ago when we were struggling to be struggling for survival for our species, when we were primarily concerned with getting our genes into the next generation, it wouldn't have made sense to be so compassionate to people we don't know. It would have only made sense to restrict our care and compassion to ourselves and to our tribe, to our cave clan, if you will. Now that is a severely outdated worldview and arguably one of the aspects of our current worldview which is causing a large amount of suffering. And so these practices are specifically designed to unplug that aspect of the current worldview so that we can not only extend care and compassion to ourselves and to our loved ones, but to eventually to all beings worldwide. So just recognizing that this is not an easy practice. One doesn't come to a 45-minute guided meditation on Facebook Live and then come out being a master of compassion. It takes a fair amount of work, a fair amount of practice. So be patient with yourself. These meditations are all being recorded and will be available. And feel free to access them. They're all going to be for free on my website and on YouTube and on my Facebook page. And so if you wish to access the recordings of the guided meditations and really dive deep into the practices of compassion, there might be no greater pursuit as far as I'm concerned. So one of the ways of starting a practice like this with the daily seating is you find a comfortable place to sit, or you can be relaxed and at rest. And then we do what's called an opening of the heart. And this is a way of touching in with our human tendency to feel compassion, although it does go against that Darwinian drive towards survival. If you've turned on the TV and you've seen images of people suffering, perhaps there's an image of a fire in your neighborhood and people are running out of the fire, and you see that, you suddenly, you feel their suffering, even just for a moment. You might then quickly turn the channel or turn away from the TV. So that's a sign of how we shut down, how we close our heart to the experience of other people's suffering. So here, before launching into the guided meditation on cultivating compassion for others, we just touch in with that heart. It's called the bodhicitta, the heart of suffering that unites all living beings. And one great way to touch in with this is, well, you can just go to Google and Google yesterday or this weekend's New York Times. And you'll see that what they've done on the cover there is they've printed 1,000 names of people who have died from COVID-19. It's just a list of 1,000 people. That 1,000 people makes 1% of all of the people who have perished from COVID-19 in America. It's very stark, it's very moving. And if you just look at that and recognize that each name is not a name, it's not a number, it represents thousands of tears that have been cried, thousands of lives that have been changed dramatically. And so when we touch in with that, it really opens the heart. You might even feel your heart breaking. That's bodhicitta. That's the rising of compassion. And then we take that experience into the meditation with us. And so just allow that to stir in your heart for a few moments. That image, or it could be any other image, anything that allows your heart to open and connect with the potential of suffering that's arising throughout the world today. I know this isn't a happy talk. Sorry for that. But this is the situation of the world currently. And so this is a great time, very, very profound time to practice compassion, because it's so easy to connect with the suffering that's arising throughout the world today. Okay, I'll ring the meditation bell. I'll guide us into the present moment using the experience of sound, sensations of the body and the breath. Remember, sounds, body, and breath are always present moment experiences. If you feel that you're getting emotionally worked up, or the practice is getting what I call too hot, anytime during the meditation, if that occurs, come back to the sounds of the present moment. Come back to the body. That'll allow you to regulate yourself, regulate your emotions. So if you're getting too emotional, if you feel like you're clenching up against the meditation practice, come back to the present moment. Then from that present moment experience, when you feel comfortable again, you can go back into the meditation if you wish. If you get to the too hot zone more than once in a practice, in any meditation practice, you should finish for the day. Get up, have a cup of tea, go for a walk, do something else. Come back to the meditation in a day or so when you feel calmer and more ready to embrace what's arising in the present moment. So we'll go into the silence. We'll offer these phrases of compassion first to our own heart, and we'll move rather swiftly through that stage, just sitting with each phrase for about 15 or 20 seconds. And then we'll offer compassion phrases to the heart of somebody we don't know. And so this is done through a visualization. You can just visualize a person you don't know. You can just even take one of those names from the New York Times cover and imagine what that person might look like. And you just offer these phrases of compassion to that person. Or this could be a person who works at the grocery store that you might have seen recently behind a mask. The mask actually makes it very easy to feel neutral towards people. So then offering this neutral person these phrases of compassion. Remember that all beings want happiness and want to avoid suffering. And it's our birthright. that regardless of who we are, we deserve happiness and deserve to live a life free from suffering. So in that way, with that in mind, we offer these phrases of compassion to their heart. Now, after each phrase, we'll spend about a minute or so visualizing, imagining what their life would look or feel like if each phrase was completely reflective of their life circumstance. Now you might feel an opening. We drop the phrase into the silence. We offer that phrase to our stranger's heart, and you might feel an opening. That's great. That's a warmth or an embracing of the present moment. That means that you're peaceful in that present moment experience with that phrase. Now you might feel a resistance to the phrase. Your mind might start, oh, that'll never happen, oh, that can't happen for anyone, that's impossible. Those are all resistances. Or you might feel like a boredom or a type of indifference arise. Again, another resistance. We're not trying to change those resistances during the practice, but rather just allow yourself to rest in the experience of the resistance. Don't try to push that resistance away, but just experience what the resistance feels like. So, oh, that's interesting, I'm resisting there. What does that feel like in my body? What does that feel like in my heart to resist that phrase? So the more present you are with that resistance, the more available you are to that experience, you understand that that will pass. You feel that resistance pass. It might come up again, but it is like everything else, an arising that eventually will pass. Like that. And so you learn to rest in your own resistances. You learn to rest in your own discomforts. Eventually those discomforts do pass through that resting state. Hopefully that will all become clear after we do the meditation. If it's not clear, however, I do host Q&A sessions, so do send any questions or comments over through the comment board here below the video or to my messenger. Happy to answer any questions or address any comments that might come in the next day or two. Okay, I think that's all I need to say. I hope you enjoy today's practice on compassion for strangers. So allowing the body, mind, and heart to rest. Just coming into this present moment experience. And to begin, I'll ring the sound of the meditation bell again. Rest your awareness on the decay of the bell. Allow the sound of the bell to guide your awareness into silence. And while resting in that silent stillness of the present moment, noticing the sounds arising out of that silence and returning back to the silence. You don't need to focus on any one sound in particular, but noticing the entire field of sound. Listening to the soundtrack of the present moment. Perhaps listening to the relationship between each sound and the silence of the present moment. And I'll ring the sound of the bell again. Rest your awareness on the tone of the bell. Allow the bell to guide your awareness into silence. And while resting with the stillness and the silence of the present moment, expanding out through that silent space to notice the sounds arising, and simply resting in the experience of listening to the present moment. And while resting with the silence and sound, noticing the sensations of the feet against the mat or the floor, sensations of clothing against the legs, the weight of the body against the cushion or chair, mat or floor. Sensations of clothing against the back. Noticing the hands resting against the body or touching each other. Sensations of clothing against the arms. Noticing the shoulders rising and falling as you breathe in and breathe out. You might also notice sensations arising from the back of the neck and the sides of the neck. Sensations arising from the back of the head and the ears. There might be sensations arising from the cheeks of the face, including the lips and the nose, the eyes and the forehead. Noticing any sensations arising from the top of the head. And while resting there with the silence and sound and the sensations arising throughout the body, bringing attention to the breath as it enters the nose and leaves the nose. There might be sensations arising as the breath touches the back of the throat. Noticing the rib cage expanding and contracting with each breath. The sensations of clothing moving to adjust with the rising and falling of the shoulders, chest, and abdomen. Noticing the back moving out as you breathe in as you breathe out. Shoulders rising and falling with each breath. And while resting here with the silence and sound, sensations of body and breath, we'll begin offering these very precious phrases of compassion to our own heart, as if we were bringing our heart the most precious, rare gift. Visualizing or imagining what our life might look or feel like if each phrase was completely reflective of our life circumstance. May I be free from suffering. May I be free from disturbance and harm. May I accept things just as they are. May I experience the world accepting me just as I am. May I serve the present moment. And breathing in and breathing out, allowing a visualization to arise in the mind's eye. Visualizing a stranger. This could be somebody we've never met, or it might be somebody whom we've met maybe once or twice. But for someone for whom there's no feelings of attraction or aversion towards. A neutral person. And we'll begin offering these very precious gifts of compassion to our neutral person's heart, recognizing that all beings deserve happiness and a life free from suffering. And after each phrase, we'll visualize or imagine what their life would look or feel like if each phrase was completely reflective of their life circumstance. May you be free from suffering. be free from disturbance and harm. May you accept things just as they are. May you experience the world accepting you just as you are. May you serve whatever arises. May you be free from suffering. May you be free from disturbance and harm. May you accept things just as they are. May you experience the world accepting you just as you are. May you serve whatever arises. And breathing in and breathing out, allowing any visualizations which arose in the mind's eye to dissolve. You can let those fade back into the open, spacious awareness from which they came. And bringing attention and awareness to the sounds of the present moment. And simply listening to the soundtrack of this experience. And while resting there with the silence and sounds of the present moment, noticing the sensations of the feet against the mat or the floor, sensations of clothing against the legs, the weight of the body against the chair or cushion, mat or floor. You might notice sensations of clothing against the back, the hands resting against the body or touching each other, the arms resting against the body. Noticing sensations of clothing against the shoulders. You might also notice sensations arising from the back of the neck, and the sides of the neck. Sensations arising from the back of the head and the ears. There might be sensations arising from the cheeks of the face, the lips and the nose, the eyes and the forehead. Noticing any sensations arising from the top of the head. And while resting there with the silence and sound and the sensations arising throughout the body, bringing attention to the breath, entering and leaving the nose, the breath touching the back of the throat. You might notice the rib cage expanding and contracting as you inhale and exhale. The abdomen rising and falling with each breath. Noticing sensations of the back moving out as you breathe in as you breathe out. The shoulders rising and falling with each breath. And just rest there in this present moment experience. Silence and sound, body and breath. You might feel an opening or a warmth around the heart area, the rising of compassion. And just rest, breathing in and breathing out. So thank you for joining me today for my guided meditation on cultivating compassion for strangers, people we don't know, or people we might have this feeling of neutrality towards. Again, this method is used to cultivate our circle of care and compassion, to not only include ourselves and loved ones, but to also expand our tribe. So expand our family from not only ourselves and loved ones, but also including people we don't know. And tomorrow we'll take a look at expanding compassion to people we don't like. Now, arguably, that's one of the more challenging practices to do. I'll also be bringing the lyrics to a very famous Pink Floyd song as a way of cultivating that open-heartedness, that what they call bodhicitta, that connecting with the human capacity for joy and happiness, the human drive away from suffering and pain. Thank you very much. I think that's all I want to offer today. Please do stay safe, stay clean, stay healthy, wear your masks, practice your social distancing, wash your hands, and we'll get through all of this insanity together. Thank you.